as an accountant, my job is to let's look through all of this information. Let's lower this package. Let's see if they have an annual plan for this. Like, let's really, what is your goals for your business? Not today. Like, what is your next 5-year goals for your business? And let's work backwards from what you're trying to accomplish.
Welcome all our listeners and constituents to the Entrepreneur Chamber, where we like to highlight those that like to step out on a limb and take a chance in the community to not only empower themselves, but empower you, our listeners and our community.
Before we proceed with our special guest today, I just want to shout out my brother and host, Mr. Anthony Ambros, aka Souls for the People.
What's going on, everybody?
And without further delay, I'm just going to go right into our special guest today. And her name is Miss Phyllis Johnson. She's the owner and CEO of PKJ Consulting. She's someone that I met around June of 2020. And this was like right around the height of the pandemic. And during that time, in-person meetings had basically ceased to exist. And a different way of reaching out to the masses had emerged literally right before our eyes. And it's the virtual meeting place. So I took place in a webinar series that was presented by the Small Business Development Center. And the webinar subject matter was proper bookkeeping for small businesses. I was so impressed by their guest speaker, Miss Phyllis Johnson. About a week later, I reached out to her agency, PKJ Consulting, because at that time, my books were a mess, I must admit. And after a thorough consultation, and to make a long story short, I retained her services, and we have developed a working business relationship ever since. So, Entrepreneur Chamber, help us, my man SOSA and I. Welcome to our platform, Ms. Phyllis Johnson, the owner and CEO of PKJ Consulting. How are you, Phyllis?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you. We certainly appreciate you taking out the time to speak with us. And most importantly, Phyllis, to speak with our members of our community, the Entrepreneur Chamber. Please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Phyllis Johnson. I am the owner and CEO of PKJ Consulting. I've owned my business now for 7.5 years. Time goes by very quickly. Before then, I was working as a CFO and HR manager. My background is all fun things accounting. So I have my bachelor's degree in accounting, finance, and business administration. And then my master's degree is actually in entrepreneurship management. So I'm originally from California. I am now here in fun and sunny Las Vegas. And so my company does pretty much all things small business. So when I started my business, my goal really was to, and still is, to help small business owners with everything: bookkeeping, accounting, payroll, operations, like all back office type of things, taxes. I find a lot of business owners are amazing at what they do, right? But they're not good at understanding the numbers. So that's kind of where my nerdy side comes in, because I like numbers. So my mom worked the IRS and my dad worked for the Bank of America. So it's just kind of in my bloodstream at this point. And so I enjoy what I do. I help a lot of small business owners, those who don't really need like that in-person, day-to-day, someone in their office type situation.
Can you enumerate on how like presentations or business sales was shifted from a seminar-based way of getting your brand name out there to what we see more of today, which is more webinar-based? And how did you make that adjustment?
Sure. So honestly, for me, I've always been remote. I do actually, yeah. So I mean, I have an office here in Nevada, in Las Vegas, but I'm always thinking 5 years ahead. So one of my last corporate America jobs, I was here in Henderson, which is right next to Las Vegas, and they moved to Utah. And so I was allowed to work from home, and I had to fly to Utah once a month. And so I already saw how things were kind of shifting online. And so for me, in terms of seminars, I was doing in-person kind of QuickBooks trainings and, small business bookkeeping, those things in person. Those are great because you're speaking directly to the people in the room, right? But you're limited in terms of who's going to be there, right? You're speaking to a small group of people that may or may not be your full target audience, right? But when you are doing something online, something like this, right? I'm speaking to you guys. I don't know where this is going to go. Someone maybe in, Alaska can see it, or someone in Costa Rica can see it. And so for me, I ended up actually starting a podcast, interesting enough, interviewing small business owners. But one of the things that came out of it was I ended up working with SCORE, and they reached out to me to do a webinar on financials for small business owners. And I am now on my 4th or 5th webinar with them. So the way that, I always tell people it's really a great way to get clients because you're speaking to your target audience. And so I would say the main difference is where a seminar, you're just right face to face with the people. Online, if you're able to maintain your business online, you can talk to everybody and it lives in eternity. So, I mean, I can do a webinar in January and 2 years from now, someone will say, oh, I watched your webinar from 2 years ago because it's still, the information is still relevant today. So that is the big thing about doing something online versus just kind of that one-time shot.
So, Phyllis, what is the difference between a CPA and a certified bookkeeper, if any?
Sure. So there's definitely differences. So a bookkeeper is going to be more involved in your day-to-day transactions. So they're going to be recording your transactions. They're going to help you kind of pay your bills, possibly run payroll if that's their specialty. Whereas a CPA is like a high-level certified accountant. They're not going to be so much involved in the day-to-day items. And there's also a certain definition between accountant and a CPA. So a CPA usually is going to be doing your taxes. They are focused on taxes or audit. And so if you are not like a big corporation, maybe you have a CPA on hand, but it may not really be as necessary as making sure that you have at least some type of accountant or a really high level full charge bookkeeper. So the main difference is one is going to be more day to day. The other one's going to be more on a monthly, quarterly, or even annual type need basis. And the accountants are going to be more analytical. So the bookkeeper is going to do the work, right? But the accountants are going to be able to interpret. They're going to do your budgets. They're going to be looking at forecasting. They're going to be helping you with your growth model. They're going to be helping you streamline. Like they're going to do high level interpretation and information based on what your bookkeeper did.
Our podcast mission is to provide our viewing audience with the creative thinking of entrepreneurs, community leaders, and business owners.
If you are a service-based business, their responsibility really is to keep everything up to date, making sure to record all your income, all of your expenses, putting them in the right categories, reconciling your books and making sure that everything's done properly. As you kind of go up the ladder, right, you're going to have some bookkeepers who are going to send your invoices out for you. They're going to help you with collections. They're going to operate as the person who's going to email those invoices. They're going to cut checks for you. They're going to pay your bills for you. They're going to pay your contractors. Now, as you get to a full charge bookkeeper, you're going to have someone who's going to help you with your financial statement. There's different levels and different needs to a business owner. So that's why it's like, it kind of goes up. You could go as low as like data entry type bookkeeper who's just putting in the information. They just put it in there and then they're, have a good day. But as you go up the ladder, I mean, you can have a bookkeeper who's going to do payroll, financials, income, pay your bills, all of that stuff, and then
So as you go up higher and higher, they're going to do more and more.
So what's the end thing? You're saying that they do financials, so they're gonna like financial plan for you and your business as well?
Yes. So bookkeeper / accountant, right? It depends on what you want. So an accountant can do everything for you depending on what you're looking for. So they're going to help you with financial planning. They're going to help you with budgeting. They're going to help you with, cutting your costs. Like, so for example, with my last call with my client, we were going through their expenses and looking at let's look at these reoccurring expenses. Are you using all of these different software programs? Because we have a habit of just kind of buying all these different programs, right? And then never looking at it. And so my job is saying set it and forget it, right? And, it's a lot of times it's like $40 a month, which is not a huge amount of money, but that's almost $500 a year. So if you're not paying attention to something like that, it's just let it go. So we went through as an accountant, my job is to let's look through all of this information. Let's lower this package. Let's see if they have an annual plan for this. What is your goals for your business? Not today. What is your next 5-year goals for your business? And let's work backwards from what you're trying to accomplish.
As far as bookkeeping, do you prefer Intuit QuickBooks or another bookkeeping software like Sage or Xero? Or to you, it doesn't matter. It depends on what your client is using.
So, I'm a QuickBooks Elite Pro advisor, so I'm probably heavily the answer to this question. I actually teach other accountants and bookkeepers how to use QuickBooks. I also do training courses. I prefer QuickBooks, but the reason is not just because, I use it. It's honestly because they have different options. A lot of times when you have something like Sage, that's a really high level specific type of product. Wave and other things, they are great, but with QuickBooks, there's different versions that's going to work with you for your business. So whether you are small, you can kind of grow with it. And a lot of times these other software services, as you grow, you may outgrow it. Whereas QuickBooks is hey, you keep going. We got you to the next level, I also find that QuickBooks, remote wise, like I said, I'm a remote based business. So I was in Cartagena, Colombia, a month ago, take me back. But I could still, I didn't have any issues with running my business there, and so for me, it's just ease of use, ability to assist my clients. And then also you really want to use a software that is used by a lot of people so that as you transition your business, it's going to be easier for you to find someone to work with who's an expert with that software.
Yeah, I'm gonna lie, because with me, what I've learned was I finally learned that, okay, if you just use your account that your business is tied to and just tie that to the QuickBooks, you can pretty much just do everything and let your accountant sort everything out.
Yes.
I'll have to pay you. You can reconcile it. I'll pay you.
Yes.
But you know what? I haven't commingled anything, so it's all right there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I'm an expert receipt uploader.
Yes.
I'm excellent at uploading and taking pictures of my receipt with the phone and uploading them.
That's it.
Yes.
I'm quite sure Ms. Phillips can contest that.
But you guys are also making a good point, right? So that is another benefit of QuickBooks. Now, I know somewhat about the other software programs, but what you guys are saying is that's another key benefit, right? You guys can still have access to that software, right? While your accountant or bookkeeper also has access. So whatever you guys are doing in there, your piece, we're also able to do our piece, and every software isn't like that. With some software, the customer is not going to also be able to do stuff at the same time as, the end user. So.
As a small business owner, how important is it to retain the services of a professional bookkeeping firm or agency such as PKJ Consulting?
So I will just simply say the number one and number two reason why a business fails in the first 5 years is financials and planning, bar none. And about 71% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. Around the 80% fell within the first year, and it's 100% financials and planning. So that answers the question, right? I mean, the thing is, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be really good. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm just still running my business. That's great. But when it's time for you to get a loan or get funding or, move into something or this tax, all these things happen and you're not ready to take advantage of these opportunities, then you're trying to scramble and get all this information. So if you want your business to succeed, you at minimum should have like a on-hand person that you can reach out to. Maybe you don't need a monthly bookkeeper when you first get started. I always say preserve your money, but you should at least have someone to bounce your ideas off of. Your friends are great, but at the same time, they're not going to be looking at your stuff on a level of really making sure you're doing the right thing for your business.
Why do you think so many small businesses, specifically minority-owned businesses, struggle to get approved for like the payroll protection program and the economic injury disaster loan, affectionately known as the PPP and the IDL, aside from like any fraudulent activities?
Oh yeah, because I was like, I know a lot of people who contacted me after they got them. Yeah, so I'm like, well, shoot, but because we're not prepared, right? Unfortunately, minorities, we don't learn how to run a business. It's not something that is talked about at the dinner table growing up. You don't learn about this stuff. And so in other cultures, you see your family members owning businesses. You see family members putting money aside so that when such and such graduates and they want to start a business, they're already setting you up with their family bookkeeper or CPA, right? And so a lot of us were just kind of figuring it out, right? And then we also, unfortunately, our society has this thing where we just kind of listen to other people. Well, such and such did this. And I despise when people tell me that, because I always say, well, reach out to such and such and then have them do it for you. Or I start asking questions like, well, do you have access to such and such's financial information? Do you have the same number of kids? Do you have the same business? Do you have the same, is everything exactly the same? As someone who lives in Vegas, right? And a lot of times people will tell you about their wins. Like, oh yeah, I went to the slot machine, I won $1,000, but they're not going to tell you that they lost 5,000 winning that 1,000. So unfortunately, minority owned businesses were not prepared to take advantage of these opportunities the correct way, because we don't understand the need for a bookkeeper or accountant or a CPA or whatever, so that when these opportunities arise, it's just like, hey, Phyllis, I need this, this, and this for the PPP. Okay, I got you. Boom, boom, boom. Here's your reports. Let's apply. Boom, you got approved. Have a good day. Got to get it forgiven. Oh, okay. Boom, boom, boom. You've already, it's not even something that we even have a conversation about. Yeah. I just know that this is what it is. I'm going to get it forgiven. That's it. But we're trying to always scramble to catch up.
To your point of being prepared to take advantage of the opportunities. And it is in that preparedness, because opportunities are there. Yeah. But a lot of times we're not prepared to even take advantage of the opportunity. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people felt like there as well.
No, when she was talking, I was just reminded of a quick story that a guy was telling me like a few weeks back. He was saying, yeah, that's the thing about people, they always go off of what they hear. And he was saying, I remember I started this one company, and his father came in and said, hey, my friend told me that these guys, they don't do right what's right, or whatever. He said, oh, really? So he's all mad. He goes in the next day to work. His manager goes, hey, like, what's going on? Why are you down? Hey, I heard that we don't do the right thing. He said, okay, who did we do the right thing to? And he goes, right. I don't know. He goes, well, don't you think you should know that? So he says his dad goes the next day, he's outside, and the buddy who first told him, he said, hey, come here. He said, yo, by the way, what family did they do right? I don't know. He said, well, don't you think you should know that?
Right.
So, yes.
So kind of just speaks to like what you're saying. Yes. Like, our community, Spanish community, Black community, we always go off of what we hear, not what's actually written and actually factual there.
Right. You did mention that you live in Las Vegas. I located a list, and this list was super funny to me, because it was like what questions that people ask those that live in Las Vegas. And you'll be surprised as to what type of questions people ask people that live in Las Vegas. So I'm going to spare you in the viewing audience with all the questions, but I had to ask you a few that I saw that I thought was hilarious. One of the questions was, Phyllis, Are there any schools in Las Vegas?
Las Vegas Strip, and we just sleep and eat in the casino.
Great answer. Great answer. Okay. So here's another one, fellas. There always seem to be so many great restaurants and events in Las Vegas. Do you love going to all of them?
So, the interesting thing is when you live in Las Vegas, it's not the same as like visiting, right? So I've been here 15 years now, my goodness. So I've been here 15 years. So when I first moved here, I probably lived on the Strip every day, right? But at some point, it just becomes a normal city. Like really, Las Vegas party area is like one long, like 4-mile street, right? The rest of the city is like a normal city in sense of all of that. So in terms of like when you live here, yes, we have places that we go to, but we pretty much avoid the Strip because that's for the lovely tourists to pay 3 times as much as what we're gonna pay. So, but I mean, there is some great places. So, there always are places to go to. But once you live here, you kind of just becomes normal.
Right. It sounds like somebody asked you that question because that was
oh yeah.
Right into my next question. It must be fun living in Las Vegas. So does everyone party all the time?
For me, I like Vegas, but Vegas is like my workplace, right? So it's just not the same as someone visiting. It's not like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas because I live here, so it's always going to stay here. So my partying goes like when I go on cruises and stuff like that. It's fun here. Whatever concerts you want to see, like Usher is coming here, like there's always some type of entertainment happening. And so as you live here long enough, you realize that person's going to come back 6 months from now. You get used to it, to be honest with you. But yeah, when you first move here, it's like 24/7. I mean, I can tell some stories, but I won't tell any stories, but yes. So now, no, I just sit at home and my daughter goes to her imaginary magnet school, which was, top rated in the country. But
nice. Congratulations. Proud mom.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah. But
that's cool. So just transitioning back to our listeners, we believe that we want to try to educate our listeners, empower our listeners as much as possible. So just to help our listeners out. So let's just say, hey, I'm Tony. I'm in business and I want to start my new business, and I don't really know what's going on, but I know that I need to speak to someone, and I stumble in your office, and I say, Ms. Phyllis, I'm trying to start this business. What do I need to do from point A to point Z to help me along the way, establish this business?
Right. So the first thing I ask them is, do you have a business plan? And I'm not talking about that 30-page plan that you document to go get funding. I ask them, what kind of business do you have? What services do you offer? Or what products are you selling? Have you documented this? Who's your target market, right? Because that's really critical. How much money have you saved up? Do you have an emergency fund? So I ask a lot of questions when a client comes to me when they're in the startup phase, because if you don't know the answers to those questions, you're not really ready to start your business, because that's critical. Are you offering online? Are you offering in person? What is your home life like? Because that's important also, because if your family is not supportive, you're going to be stressed out. Yeah. Are you working a full-time job while trying to business? So really, I always ask the person, what is your plan? Have you documented this plan out to really understand? And then after you've done that, what does the next 6 months look like? How serious? I can always tell if a client's going to be somewhat successful based on how serious, what if they have their 6 month in order, like how serious are you about really making this like successful, and what does success look like for you? Because some people just want to make, $5,000 a month. That is great. Some people want to make $100,000 a month. That's amazing, right? But what are you going to do to get to those numbers? What's the back end plan? And what is it going to cost for you to get there? So I ask hard questions to people because you need to understand those answers for you to get your business going.
Do you think that they should get like, go ahead and get their name, their LLC? Do you think that someone should have an office and maybe a phone number to start? Maybe speak to our listeners a little bit about that.
No, honestly, no.
So this is I go against the grain as far as saying you need to buy all of this stuff in advance, because you get an office, but you have clients, right? So like when I started, I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. I didn't buy anything until I actually got a client. And then I was like, all right, I guess I need a website, or I guess I need a phone number, because in today's society, depending on what you're going to be doing, right? If you're doing an online based business, no one cares where your office is, you know? Are they going to look at your website? Yeah. But if you don't have a Facebook, it really depends, right? So do you need a business phone? Yes, but you can use your regular phone. Like, save your money on things that are necessary. You need to make sure you have like your marketing. You need to make sure you have a professional email address. Don't do @gmail.com. Get like a at whatever for $9.99. So I say it depends, because if you're operating a brick and mortar type business, yes, you get licenses, your LLC, you need to get all that stuff in place, because when you operate a brick and mortar, get your insurance, people are going to, it's serious, right? But if you're doing more of like a service-based company, they're more going to hire you based on you. They're not going to hire you based on how amazing your website is. It's just the best website I've ever seen. They're not going to hire you without talking to you, right? So you need to make sure, if you're a service-based business, that you know how to explain what you're doing and how to get clients and practice your pitch. That's more important than having an office.
Wow, so I like that, because that's interesting. That is a little bit like against the grain. Like, you're almost saying, you know what, you definitely get your email together, get that professional looking, but more importantly, have your, whatever, your elevator speech together, have your desire, have your vision together, and focus on, and I like what you said, I thought was real interesting. You said focus on your marketing. So like, a lot of people are gonna, try to go get the website, maybe get the phone, the office, but you're saying, you know what, listen, you need to start generating some money.
Right.
So let's focus on the marketing first. Let's get let's generate some income. Then we can worry about all these other things, is what I get, is kind of what I think you were saying, right?
I've seen some amazingly gorgeous websites, and people are like, yeah, I have this office and I have this. And I'm like, okay, but how many clients do you have? Like, is people walking in there? Like, who's your client? So they're like, I'm not making any money. Okay, so then why do you have an office?
Right.
Like, because when I first started, where are you located? I would love to come to your office and sit down with you and talk. I'm coming to you. Like, So I mean, I did like, where, so the thing is that we have this idea that a business is, I got my EIN and my LLC and my phone number. Oh, that's not a business. You just have some documentation. A business is, I have clients. Like, that's a business. That's a bit, so, yeah, I go against the grain in people wasting money just to say that they have stuff, but really their bank account is empty. So.
If I may, man, I just think that's just a dope, excellent answer.
Yeah.
And for the members of the Entrepreneur Chamber and our viewing audience, take some notes.
Yeah,
because she's giving you the nuances and things you can learn from the very beginning. So I think that's just awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just say now, all right, now I'm in business. All right, I'm doing a little bit of something. I'm starting to make a little bit of money, generating. Okay, we're doing okay. So tell me about what expense, because this is something I know business owners out there, I know our listeners want to know, what business expense can I deduct, right? Or maybe, back up, tell us the advantage of maybe being a business owner with with the 1099 as opposed to a W-2.
So a W-2, you mean like having a full-time job and then having a side business?
Having a business, yes. Let's just say now you're a business owner. What's the advantage of being a business owner, right? With your tax structures, as opposed to being an employee with those tax structures?
Well, I mean, if you're a business, if you're a W-2, somebody pretty much tells you who, what, when, where, and why, right? So the W-2, I say W-2 life, but the thing about a W-2 situation is there is a structure, right? No matter what you do, you're just going to drop in your numbers into the tax software.
TurboTax or whatever, it's going to spit out your information. There's not a lot of flexibility when it comes to being a W-2 person. You make what you make, taxes are taken out, you have some itemized deductions here and there, but for the most part, it is what it is.
Yeah.
When you're a business owner, you have more control throughout the year. You know exactly how much money you're making. You can do tax planning. There's things that, like, if you go to school for your business, right, you can write off all of that. So like if you're a W-2 person and maybe you want to go back to college to get a degree, unless your company's paying for it, you're paying for that out of pocket. But if I decide I want to go get whatever certification, PKJ Consulting is paying for that. If I am buying these shirts for my business, right, Marketing 101, PKJ Consulting is paying for that. So the difference in being a W-2 versus business owner is there's flexibility in planning. There's more things that are opportunities for you to get grants and fundings and for you to have way more tax write-offs. So like if you're a W-2, you can't write off your home office expense, which is huge right now because so many people are working from home. Yeah. Right. And so now you're working from home, you're using your internet, your lights. I'm using all this stuff to talk to you guys, right? But if I'm a W-2 person, then I'm just paying for it out of pocket. Wow. Whereas as a business owner, all this stuff is going on my taxes. Now, when you get to a higher level, right? Because there's levels to even a business owner, you have an S Corp or a C Corp. Now, when you have an S Corp, then you could put yourself on a W-2. Right. So then you can actually pay your employee as a write-off to buy all these things as an S Corp. Mm-hmm. So your goal really is to get yourself to the point where your business makes enough funds to actually employ yourself. And I mean, of course, others, because then now you have a W-2 and you have a business and you can now set up a retirement program for yourself. You could do a lot of the W-2 stuff while still being a business owner.
So if I'm just starting off, do I want to start off as an S Corp?
So there's expenses that comes with an S Corp. So like an LLC tax return is way cheaper than an S Corp, right? LLC tax return, you can do yourself. And I'm saying that slowly because I always got to, depends on who the person is. An S Corp, you need to have a tax person do it. It's a whole different, you're not going to find that on TurboTax or anything like that. There's different rules, there are different regulations, there's different expenses, there's different fees. So financially, you need to be making enough money for it to make sense for you to become an S Corp. Like for my clients, I'm like, you have no choice. You're about to owe the IRS like some 10s, 15s, 20s, thousands, like you're making that type of money, So I'm going to put you on payroll so that I can put this on a W-2 so you can keep your money, So I never say jump out to be an S Corp unless you just have some huge contract immediately, off the bat, right? So I say grow into whatever it is you're going to become.
What would you think maybe that once you could start thinking about, this type of revenue to maybe start thinking about an S Corp?
So I say as a service, and I say service-based because product-based is a whole different ball, as your net income, not your gross, your net income. After you pay everything, and this is the only thing that you really have going on, like you don't have a side business or anything else like that. If your net income is starting to hit like $100,000 or something, because now, if that's as an LLC, if your net income is $100,000 on your tax return, you're going to owe money to the IRS. Yeah. However, think about that $100,000 net income as a W-2, then you could pay yourself, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Now you have a W-2, now you're getting paid, and now your net income is lower.
So now let's speak to, all right, now I got it together. Like I was going to say before. You got it together. I'm doing good. I'm getting it. I got the LLC rocking. I'm feeling good. Maybe thinking about the S Corp, right? But not there yet. What deductions can you actually put on can you write off without raising red flags to the IRS?
So that's where you want to have an accountant, because the thing is, raising red flags to the IRS, it depends on your whole thing. Like your business has to also do with your personal stuff, right? So anything related to let's just make this clear. Anything related to your business is a tax write-off. anything. So if you're taking out a client for meals, it's a tax write-off. If you're driving to a client's place, that's a tax write-off. If you're buying supplies, these pictures behind me, because I just moved here, so I don't have all the other stuff, that's tax write-off. Anything for your business, especially when it comes to, branding, like as you can see, I'm pointing at a bunch of stuff that's orange. I got an orange phone over here, it's orange. It's serious in here. It's a tax write-off, right? So anything related to your business is a tax write-off. Now you're going to have gray area stuff like travel, right? Or, mileage. That's gray area. And so when you say raise flags with the IRS, what the IRS is looking at doesn't make logical sense. And so, for my mom, she worked in the IRS and she actually worked in the tax advocate service. So those people, when you get that letter and you're like, don't know what to do, she was in that area, right? And so you have to think of it as this, right? The IRS are just human beings. They're not like some robots. But think of it as this, like I went to Cartagena, Colombia, right? Now, can I write that off my taxes? I mean, maybe, maybe not, right? So it depends on, did I go there for business specifically? Halfway yes, halfway no. So you can, because I have a bookkeeping team in Colombia, right? Remote working. Yeah. So, but you have to look at the overall, what was the reason? Do you have the documentation? Let's split this out properly. So if you're talking to the IRS, does it make logical sense? And what is the flow of your business? Is it realistic that all of a sudden you're writing off all of these expenses? So, red flags is going to be determined by a lot of factors. So you want to make sure when it comes to doing your taxes that you have a professional that's understanding your type of business and your whole part. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, can you just do my business taxes? I'm like, if I'm not doing both, I'm not doing them, because it flows all together. No matter what type of business, it all kind of flows. So.
Right. So I just hope fellow entrepreneurs, like I said, you're taking notes. Yes. Because like you said, because I know in our communities we like to stretch the boundaries a little bit. So right. Listen, if it don't flow, it don't go. Right. So that brings me to one of my other questions. So is it, because this is something that I get, something I was confused with. I know when I was first in the business, I've spoken to other business owners. So is it better to do mileage or gas, or can you do both?
So you have to look at what type of business you have. And then you want to keep track of both. And then you want to run the numbers on your tax return. So if you're a salesperson, you're just going back and forth to people all day, then you're writing off everything, right? But in today's society, how much driving are you really doing? So I say keep track of both. And then when you do your taxes, run both and see which one's going to be the best, for your business. Now, when it comes to taxes, you have to pick one and you can't go back and forth. But that's where, an accountant's going to look at, let's look at all the actual, let's look at the standard, let's see what's going to be the best for you and your business. And then let's, roll with that. It's honestly, the write-off is not that huge. Unless you're like unless you're a truck driver, right? Like, unless you're on the road 24/7. I have clients who will be like, oh, I drove 30,000 miles. I'm like, in the middle of a pandemic and I'm not documenting that because I'm not, look, my P10 is clean. You did not drive that much. It's not that serious.
So when you analyze a business, like how does one know, or how do you help them kind of figure out their break-even point?
So your break-even point is knowing what all your expenses are, your reoccurring expenses on a monthly basis. So let's just say that's $3,000. Your break-even point is once you make $3,000, but that's where it's critical to know what your reoccurring expenses are. If you are a product-based business, same thing. Once you make that number, but how much are you selling that product for? And then once it hits that, whatever that amount is, times whatever. So then you know how many products you need to sell to hit the break-even point.
So my last question before we break into the last fun questions here is, what type of clients do you typically work with?
I don't have a type, which is, sometimes I look at my client list and it's a huge variety. I have coaching clients. I have clients who sell safety supplies. I have e-commerce clients. I have like spiritual healing clients. I have clients that I resonate with. So, I mean, really, honestly, I don't have a particular client per se, but the clients I like to work with are ones who are open to understanding the need. I think my favorite clients are the ones that know I need you and like it's a necessity, you know. So I have janitorial clients, you know. Hey, so I don't have a particular type of client. I have clients that understand their need and see the benefit of utilizing my services, understanding that their stuff is going to be up to date at all times. If you need this, I got you. If you need to run this report, if you're going to apply for a loan or financing or funding, you need to run your numbers. If we need to grow, if you're about to open up another location, if you need me to, you know, talk to like, you know, if you have some ideas you want to bounce off of me, if you are going through a divorce and need to look, the clients I have are ones that I build a relationship with and understand that, you know, your goal is to grow your business and my goal is to make sure everything's in order. So
nice. Well, there you have it, Entrepreneur Chamber. I mean, you guys are looking for an incredible CPA. You just heard it. So she's basically telling you that, hey, are you on the economy plan? She'll put you in economy, you know what I mean? Or you want first class? She'll put you in first class also. So the menu is full. Whatever you like, you know, she'll be willing to handle you. So thank you so much. I want to ask you, and now we're going to get to the fun part of the segment. And we like to ask all our guests, kind of close and kind of lighten up the situation here. So we have 3 categories here. Basically entertainment, right? Are you more into like movies, books, or music?
Oh gosh, travel locations.
Travel, your 5 best travel destinations, Miss Phyllis.
Oh, number 1 would have to definitely be hands down South Africa. That was just a total amazing experience. The things that we are told about Africa is not, you know, what is reality. So going there was just an amazing experience. And the exchange rate, oh man, I mean, it's amazing. So that would have to be number 1. I went in 2017. Man, I was supposed to go back, but you know, a little pandemic thing. Number 2 would have to be, I don't know why I picked this. Okay, let me think. I'm gonna have to say Colombia. I think Colombia.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to slide. I'm gonna have to let. Yeah, so I went to probably because I just went. So Cartagena, Colombia was. I think you know what it is. I like places that shock me. And so going to Cartagena, food is amazing. It actually has a huge Afro-Latino population, and just a fact for people who, you know, are interested in this type of thing. So Palenque, Colombia was actually the first place in the Americas where slaves were free, the first. So yeah. So going to something like that is just a whole other cultural experience. But third would have to be Bahamas. I'm a beach bum. So as you can see, I'm naming a lot of
honeymoon out there, so I'm with you.
yes. Bahamas, then Jamaica, and then all of Mexico, Cabo, Cancun.
So I just really want to thank personally myself on behalf of Winston self. You know, we just want to thank you. The information that you gave us was so informative. You're so full of spirit. I think that to me this was excellent. I thought you were so personable, and you with all your answers, and I certainly appreciate you giving us the blessing us with your presence and giving us this time.
And yeah, I truly appreciate you joining us today, Phyllis, and sharing your wealth of knowledge with our viewing audience and members of the Entrepreneur Chamber. You've been an excellent guest. We appreciate you answering these questions. And, between SOSA and I, he's been in business, I think, about 16 years. I've been in business about 4 years. So some of these questions we knew the answers to, but about a couple of them, I just got the answer just by speaking to you just now.
Yeah.
So I know that there's some member of the Entrepreneur Chamber who may be on the fence and are thinking about starting their business. Mm-hmm. And after watching this episode of our podcast, I'm quite sure just by listening to you, it helped them, if not make that leap, take it a step further and give them more confidence to let them know that they can do it, because that information is empowering.
Yeah.
And like you alluded to earlier, a lot of times it's just the misinformation that puts the fear or the reluctancy within us in the Black and Hispanic communities for us not to take that step further. We certainly appreciate you. We're grateful for you taking out the time and having this important discussion with us today. And during your closing remarks, can you please let our audience know how can they reach out to you, especially if they're serious about taking their business to the next level?
Sure. So first, I want to say thank you for having me. And I can say that in Spanish too, because I'm learning Spanish. But
Hablo español, yo hablo español.
sí, sí. Aprendido español porque me gusta viajar a México y Colombia. Sí, sí, sí. Okay. But anyways, if you want to find me, you can find me on all platforms at PKJ Consulting. And if you are interested in scheduling a free 15-minute consultation with me, you can go to Calendly/PKJ Consulting, where you have options to, reach out to me to discuss just whatever you would like to in terms of your business and how I can be of assistance to you.
Help empower us so we can help empower you.
Yes, and to all the viewers in the audience, peace all and be victorious.